looking in the mirror. Do I look good? I got my extra bands on. I got my other shoes on. We need more dogs.
Hello, and welcome back to the Shaving Points Podcast. My name is Jayden May, joined as always by my co-host Quentin Crisco. You can find him on Twitter at BucketStats. You can find me on Twitter at JMay56. And tonight, we're just going to rank QBs and tell you exactly where they land in the pecking order of the NFL. Let you all know the absolute perfect tier system for all 32 teams, 32 quarterbacks, 36 quarterbacks. I added some backups, naturally. So, how are we doing tonight?
It's going to be the perfect tier.
Be perfect tier. Quick update. Indiana Pacers, I think, just won game 1 in Boston.
Ooh.
Oh, nope.
Indiana. Overtime. Free basketball.
Boston made the shot. But shout out to the sports city of Dallas, reigning World Series champions, current, conference championship
Western Conference Finals.
Western Conference Finals appearers for the Stars and the Mavericks. Good for them. It's like
good for them.
It's like Michael Scott says. It's like an inside joke with all the teams. I'd love to be a part of one someday.
Yeah, would love it. It would be great. It's that reminds me of back when the Blackhawks were doing their thing and the Bulls had D Rose, and it was just like, man, stuff's going good here in Chicago, and then it all came.
It's a great time to be a fan of Chicago,
at least.
Yeah. So. We're what, 3 weeks post draft. So how are the vibes in Chicago right now for this Bears team?
They're running hot, man. People are getting
all-time high
with their takes.
Is this the most excited Chicago's been for a football season in decades?
No. 2019 was like, we're ready for the Super Bowl. Excited.
You're not ready for the Super Bowl this year?
We're not expecting it.
Maybe you're not.
We will welcome it, but we've been hurt, man. We're not ready to be hurt that bad again.
Yeah. So, is the city of Chicago ready to? If there was like a award for Chicago sports fans' favorite person in the world, is Lovie Smith up there?
Absolutely. I mean, before he helped with the number 1 pick, he might have been up there because people love them some Lovie. But yeah. I mean, after that, he's got to be up there. Like he's going to be leading the parade someday.
Yeah, I mean, is Halas Hall going to be Smith Hall in 30 years?
Better be.
But great time to be a Chicago sports fan. Great time to be a Dallas sports fan. It's a great time to rank some QBs.
Let's go.
Yeah.
All right. And for you guys on YouTube, we got the graphic up here for you. If you're listening, we'll walk you through all of them. Our first tier here, what do we mean by this? Calling it the Mahomes tier? Okay.
Yeah, so this is the GOAT tier, the God tier, the S tier. This is basically just it's the tier of Patrick Mahomes, because he is in his own tier. Nobody's even close to him. And in this tier of quarterbacks, I have Patrick Mahomes.
Shocker. I, too, have Patrick Mahomes. And
wow.
To give a little explanation as to why I think he deserves his own tier, so I went through the top, 20 QBs. The 20 QBs I thought were worth, really digging in a bit more on. And I ranked them 1 through 20 for problem solving, for creativity, for pocket presence, for playing within the scheme, for arm talent, and for risk taking. I had a weighted average out of that all. Mahomes' weighted average in that rank was 1.4. The next closest guy was 5.03. And then the rest of them are all within 1 rank of each other, except for Mahomes, who is just wildly ahead of the pack. So get his own tier.
Yeah. So a way I can explain this in a non-nerd tier, he's been in the NFL for 7 years. He's been a starter for 6. He's been to 6 AFC championships, been to 4 Super Bowls, won 3, won 2 MVPs, is on pace to basically shatter every NFL record ever set in mankind. So, yeah.
Pretty clear. And
So it has the nerd stats to back it up, but it also is just hitting you in the face with duh.
yeah, yeah. And
So-
before we get to the next guy, I don't know. I don't know if you put together like a. I want kind of like a mission statement or like a statement of like what are we valuing in quarterbacks, right? And so
Yes.
for me, I sat there saying like really thinking through like what do I care more about than other things, and I ended up with the statement of I value a quarterback who can elevate a roster with creative problem solving, playmaking, and calculated risk taking. By calculated risk taking, I mean knowing when to take the risks and when to lay back and live to fight another down. And
Yeah.
that shows in my rankings where problem solving, creativity were my two biggest those were the most important, followed by pocket presence, which fits in with the calculated risk take. You know when you can take sacks, you know when you need to kick up in the pocket. Playing within the scheme was on the lower end of it, but it's still ahead of arm talent and risk taking, because within the scheme you need to be able to do that to some extent. You can't just be a creative playmaker. And then arm talent I care about, but I don't care about as much as the rest of that, because I look at some quarterbacks, I'm like, the arm talent, like they might be 20th in the league, but they figure everything else out.
Yeah. So yeah, in this next tier, I called it confetti quarterbacks. Quarterbacks that you can see confetti falling on, not necessarily ones that have already fallen on them, but quarterbacks that can win in spite of their circumstance, that are proven winners, that can get the job done, that you're not worried about, that every single year you go into the season knowing you have a chance to win a Super Bowl if it wasn't for Patrick Mahomes. So you got to have like the Patrick Mahomes asterisk in this, because I have 3 people in this tier, and I think if it weren't for Patrick Mahomes, all 3 fans of these quarterbacks of these teams would have a legitimate reason to believe that they are Super Bowl contenders year in and year out, because they have this quarterback leading their team. Lamar Jackson, the two-time MVP, unanimous MVP, one of the best in the game right now, elite running the football, elite field vision, does it all.
Yeah, I can see that, and I get that there. I'll talk about him a little more when I hit him, but you ready for mine? It's a hot take.
Justin Herbert.
No.
Oh.
Same city, though.
See, I had Matt Stafford up here. The only reason why I don't now is because I'm doing current, and I just don't know if he's still on that level that he can win in spite of. And I just do not think the team that he has in LA right now is that. But I think he is my first guy up.
Yeah,
forward.
so for me, I mean, I look at it as I thought the Rams were a number 1 pick roster last year. And I think Matt Stafford doesn't get enough credit for the emergence of Puka Nacua and the emergence of Kyron Williams in that offense when Cooper Kupp isn't the same dude he used to be. And I mean, I look at that offense. Matt Stafford was doing some wild stuff last year.
Cooper Kupp was a solid receiver before Matt Stafford got there. And then he turns into a consensus top 5 receiver in the league as soon as Matt Stafford gets there. I mean, there's a reason for that.
I mean, I don't think that Rams team sniffs the playoffs last year without Matt Stafford playing the way he was. And really, 2 years ago, I don't think Matt Stafford was in this tier. I think he has hit a sweet spot in his career of having so much intellect and so much mental asset to his offense while still having physical abilities. Now, that can fall off really quickly. But for this year, for last year, I think that's all coming together to mix perfectly with him being I'm not outside of Mahomes. I'm not sure there's another quarterback I'm more scared of facing in a playoff game than Matt Stafford.
Yeah, and what's crazy about Matt Stafford is he's been very, very healthy in his career after, like, what was it, the first 3 seasons where he was getting hurt, like, consistently, and you're like, man, this dude's never going to stay healthy. And then he just very quietly went, like, 10 straight seasons, missing, 2 games? Like, it's wild. But, yeah, I mean, I love me some Matt Stafford.
All right, we ready to get to your next one?
Absolutely.
Joe Burrow.
Joey Ice, Joe Burrow. I mean, the man, he's the only man not named Tom Brady to stare down Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs and beat him. He's been to a Super Bowl, lost to your guy, Matt Stafford. I mean, when he's on the field and when he plays, I don't think anybody can ever say that the Cincinnati Bengals are out of it. And say what you want about, I mean, people can go on and on about talent around him and everything. I don't care. If I'm a Cincinnati Bengal fan and Joe Burrow's on the field, I think that we have a chance to win a Super Bowl. And a lot of that has to do with their success against the GOAT and Patrick Mahomes. But a lot of it just has to do with, I mean, when it's not cutting time, when it's time to win, I don't know if I would rather have anybody in the league have the ball than Joe Burrow.
He's cool, man. Joe cool. Like, I mean, he is up there, like, traditionally the way that people would say playmaker, he wouldn't be up there in the rankings for me, but I put him up there for playmaking in the top 7 and problem solving top 2. I think this guy can diagnose stuff pre-snap and post-snap as well as anyone in the league and find good answers to real problems that defenses throw his way. Now, the roster helps him a lot, but at the same time, this guy processes better than most quarterbacks that you find in this league. And that creativity isn't just about your ability to run around and make plays outside the pocket, right? It's not about that scrambling ability to me. It's about the ability to take what you're looking at and it might be shit that you're looking at, right? And to turn it into chicken salad and make something good out of it. And I think that's something Joe Burrow does a good job of.
And a lot of people talk about roster, and I understand that the roster is good. But I think a good leader, a good quarterback has a lot to do with elevating a roster in a sense that you could have dudes all over the field and you can be like, oh, well, nobody is performing. Like, look at what these people are doing. And then you look at the Bengals and you're like, well, look how much help he has. Look at all this. And it's like, I think there is a it cannot be measured what a good leader can do to elevate those around him on both sides of the ball. I mean, I'm not saying that like he could take a bad defense and turn them good or like, but I mean, we're talking about the best of the best in the entire world when it comes to the sport of football. Like, and if you can get the most out of the people around you, I mean, there's a lot to be said for that. And I think he has whatever that is.
All right. So moving to my third guy, Josh Allen. And
thought it was going to be Dak Prescott. Same guy.
Are they, though?
Tell me why they're not.
I mean, you can go to playoff record. Josh Allen's 5-5 in the playoffs. Dak Prescott is, I forget what it is. It's not 5-5 though. He hasn't won.
He's got 4 wins.
Was he 4-6? 4-5, 4-6. So minor difference there. But 3 of Josh Allen's playoff losses have come at the hands of God tier Pat Mahomes. That has to be worth something. He's 5-2 against non-Pat Mahomes teams in the playoffs. In his losses in the playoffs, his teams
Dak lost to Jordan Love and Aaron Rodgers. Does he get a pass for that?
Not Jordan Love. Maybe Aaron Rodgers. I mean, Aaron Rodgers didn't win 3 Super Bowls in 5 years? 4 years?
Hasn't won. He still hasn't won 3 Super Bowls.
Yeah, he still hasn't won 2. So I mean, there has to be some value there for
Trash.
that. In the playoffs, Josh Allen's offense has averaged 27 points a game. In his losses,
Yeah.
they've averaged 24 points a game. You can look at Lamar Jackson and look at his losses. His teams have averaged 11 points a game.
Talking
in his
about the
losses.
2-time right now.
Yeah, the 2-time.
I'll take Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, I'm taking Josh Allen personally. And most of it has to do with the playoffs, if I'm being honest. If Lamar Jackson, like his playoff loss numbers to me really do not sit well. Just because when you're averaging 11 points a game in your 4 playoff losses, that's a huge flag to me. That's something that I have a really hard time getting past.
They got the offense right in this offseason. They're going to be a problem next year.
Yeah. But anyways, let's move on.
All right. What's up, brother?
Stroud Boys.
Stroud Boys, stand up. Stroud Boys for life. I mean, I know this is early, but I mean, in the essence of this tier and how I explained it, a year 2 CJ Stroud. I mean, has the city of Houston ever had this much of a reason to be as excited as they are and have a coaching staff as competent as they have a front office that's supporting a young QB the way they do, building in the trenches, going out and getting another wide receiver for your guy on top of what he just did last season, where he just completely destroyed one of the best defenses in the league last year in the first round of the playoffs. CJ Stroud is everything that's advertised and more. And when you talk about this level, I mean, like I said, I know it's early, but I mean, I don't think anybody's had a year 2 ceiling like we currently see CJ Stroud. Because I mean, Mahomes, he had the one game in Denver, and then he absolutely blew up year 2, and immediately people were like, "Oh yeah, I mean, this team's got a chance." But I mean, I can't remember the last time we thought about this about a year 2 quarterback.
Yeah, no, I mean it's Andrew Luck is the last guy you felt this way about. Right?
Yeah,
Like
and
maybe Russell Wilson in there. But
yeah,
like
with
outside of that,
Andrew
I
Luck,
don't know that there's many guys.
with Andrew Luck, there was some things that was like, well, if he can do this or if they can do this, but like it feels like all the pieces are there for Houston, and it's only year 2.
Right.
And
he's not dragging the team to the finish line either.
So
it's probably more Russ Wilson.
Yeah, so it's like he has the ability to dominate and take over a game while also having the support, and that's why I have him here.
Yeah, because unlike Russ, I mean, Russ, there was always the question of,
is it his team?
Defense, Marshawn Lynch, putting the team on his back. It's a
hindsight. Who knows?
Yeah. I mean, I initially, in my initial rankings, which was just before I actually sat down and tried to put numbers to the names.
Yeah.
I had Stroud up here. I ended up knocking him down a little bit just because I wanted more proof, but I get it. I feel it.
And I mean, we've been Stroud boys for years on this podcast.
Next up for me.
Hey, there's the 2-time.
The guy, Lamar Jackson. I mean, he is a 2-time MVP. I didn't mean to be disrespecting the man, but when I was trying to differentiate in this tier between Josh Allen, him, and Joe Burrow, like, you got to differentiate them somehow, right? And that's where I landed up, was those playoff results. But Lamar Jackson, don't get me wrong, he is a one-stop shop for created offense. Like, he doesn't need a lot around him to be a really dangerous threat. And he is a really underrated thrower. This guy is one of the better pocket presences of any quarterback in the NFL. His arm really talent is really underrated. And I want to clarify this. When I'm talking arm talent, I'm not talking pure strength, right? Jared Goff has a really strong arm.
Yeah.
Jared Goff's arm talent is below average, though, because Jared Goff can't hit the weird angles, the different arm slots to arc the ball around defenders the same way. He doesn't have the same amount of clubs in his bag as a Lamar Jackson does, as a Matt Stafford and Pat Mahomes does, of getting the perfect touch to layer the ball between the safety and the linebackers just right. Like that arm talent that Lamar Jackson shows is really, really impressive and something that doesn't get talked about enough.
Absolutely.
All right. Oh, you only had
that's
3
it.
in there. Okay, I've got 2 more in here because initially I did
Let me
have
guess. Joe Burrow's next.
crushed it. Joe Burrow.
Don't tell me.
Oh, you know.
Dude, it's not.
You
You
know.
want to talk Joe Burrow first, or we kind of are? Yeah,
We already covered Joe Burrow. I mean, Joe Burrow belongs here. To me, these two, Joe Burrow and Justin Herbert, they're neck and neck. Like Burrow has the accolades, the proven wins. He has the skins on the wall, right? He's done it. Herbert doesn't have the skins on the wall, but Herbert has all that stuff I was just saying about Lamar Jackson with the arm talent. He has that in spades, and it is just, man, the possibilities. It's hard for me to get past that. What this guy can do with the football, he can layer the ball so well in between defenders. He can put the zip on it. He has all the clubs in his bag, and he is, I almost want to say sneaky athletic, but that's not right because he's fast. Like he's not Trubisky sneaky athletic. He is straight up fast, and he can play. He has played within 4 different offensive schemes now.
Yep.
Pretty much executed them perfectly. I mean, this guy's like a computer with the way that he is taking in the offense, being able to replicate it out on the field. The main reason he ends up below a Josh Allen, a Lamar Jackson, a Joe Burrow for me within this tier. So, I mean, it's arguable where any of these guys belong within a tier. That's the point of doing tiers. But the reason why he was on the lower end of the tier to me is the creativity. The playmaking creativity to go outside the system, to see that he can just do this and go do it, even though it's not what he's supposed to do within a play. He's too robotic at times, too much within his structure. I'd like to see him become more of get a little more screw it in his game of, I can do this, so I'm just going to go do it.
Yeah. So I have a question, and I'm not a big advocate of a QB wins guy. But at what point do wins matter?
Year 2 of Harbaugh. That's the way
Year 2 of Harbaugh.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So
if this guy isn't winning football games by next year, you're entering it's hard to I want to say like Jay Cutler territory or like Jeff George territory of the guy's got it all, but he's not translating to wins. But at the same time, Jay Cutler and Jeff George never did stuff like put up numbers anywhere close to Justin Herbert. Even if you talk about relative to the rest of the league to adjust for yard inflation and touchdown inflation, they never approach what Justin Herbert's done. So it makes it a really weird conversation to me.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think Justin Herbert's supremely talented, but I think at some point wins matter. And to have a losing career record at this point in his career is just not something that can be equated to. I mean, I think there's intangibles that cannot be measured, and for whatever reason, he's just not winning games. And for that, that's the reason why I do not have him on this tier. I think
you're not alone in that.
If we're talking just talent, yeah, it's all there. But I mean, at some point, wins matter, and blame. I mean, excuses can go on for days for this guy. I mean, I went to battle with sword in my hand, and yeah, there's all sorts of Justin Herbert stats like, oh, he's the fastest person to this amount of yards in 17 and a half games before halfway through the third quarter. And he fucking beats everybody by, I mean, it's ridiculous the amount of Justin Herbert stats out there. And call them records. I mean, everything's a record. I mean, I guess if you break it down, I mean, they're just stats. But I mean, some of the they're very impressive. But I mean, at some point, ones matter, and to have a losing career 4 years in, I can't put him up here.
You know, it was interesting. So today I was thinking about this, and just for fun, I went and looked at Justin Herbert's stats, like just pure, like traditional stats, just wins, losses, yards, touchdowns, interceptions for year 2 through year 4 compared to Dak Prescott's year 2 through year 4. They're very similar. Like Herbert had like 800 more yards and I want to say 8 more touchdowns, something like that, and the same amount of interceptions as Dak in that time with almost the same exact number of games.
Yeah, because Dak missed those 9 games his 4th year.
Yeah, which I just thought that was interesting. Like the career arc there for year 2 through year 4 has been really similar, and I do think there's some parallels roster wise for the Cowboys year 2 through year 4 to what the Chargers have been year 2 through year 4 with it aging Dez Bryant or an aging Keenan Allen with injuries putting those guys in and out, and Zeke Elliott being in and out of the roster versus Eckler becoming less and less efficient every single year. And I think there's some parallels there.
Yeah, I mean, you know me. I mean, you know me for 15 years, and I mean, I've never stood on the drum. I've never stood on the table and beat the drum for Dak Prescott. Besides, last year was the first time I've done it. So,
but at the same time, Justin Herbert's got way more arm talent than Dak Prescott. Like it's just you get sucked into his arm talent sometimes. Where you're just like, oh no, that guy can do that. Like, but anyways,
until the Chargers stop charging, then he's just another Chargers quarterback that is supremely talented that can't win.
Yeah, and hey, I don't think you're alone in that take. Like if we look back to when he was drafted, there were scouts who said that, who was just like, we don't know if this guy has it, right? There were all these weird reports about his personality being in question, but he always seemed like such a nice kid. So you were like, what personality?
I think Harbaugh is the perfect.
I think it was more about the question of, does he have the dog in him?
Yeah, I think Harbaugh is the perfect person to bring into that, but I don't think Harbaugh is the perfect coach to highlight or elevate Justin Herbert's talent in any ways. So it'll be interesting to see how those two worlds collide, because I think we'll see a dramatic decrease in quote unquote Justin Herbert stats.
Yeah.
But I think we could see a dramatic increase in wins.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. And it's just interesting. Like I almost get the vibe with Herbert sometimes that he's such a Boy Scout, right? He's so like, he's the guy you want your daughter to date.
Yeah. So this was something I was thinking about. So, I mean, everything we just said about him, talent, all that, current roster is what it is. I mean, you look at the history of Harbaugh and how he likes to build teams and everything. And it's like, is it completely out of the question that we see a Justin Herbert trade the next couple of years with this quarterback market, what they demand, how Harbaugh values the quarterback position? Maybe he would like to spend money elsewhere to have a quarterback that can do what he wants, what he needs to be done in his system. Like, is it, because I don't think it's out of the question for him to be traded. I think it would be an all-time trade. Like, don't get me wrong. I think the haul would be historic, and I don't think Harbaugh would be opposed to it. But you talk to Chargers fans online, and it's like fucking Tom Brady. It's like, oh, I mean, you don't even bring it up. But I mean, you haven't won yet. You're about to have to pay him. You have a pretty expensive defense right now that's not performing at the level it needs to. So, I mean, you can save money there, but I mean, it's going to be at least another 2 years to kind of get your cap back in order for a lot of these big contracts, and then
No, I think their cap will be pretty much set going into next year.
next year? But
Yeah,
then
I
but
think
they
they're
haven't
going to
paid
have
him
pretty
yet.
good space. Yeah, they have.
Have they?
Yeah, they
Or
they
they extended him. They didn't pay him, so they're going to have to pay him the next 2 years, won't they?
well,
I thought
they've extended him, yeah. But let's see. So this year, I mean, they're sitting on. Where's the dead cap in here? Maybe it's all the way at the bottom. Like they extended him. His extension might not have kicked in yet, but they have extended him. So I mean, his cap hit right now is 19.4 million, 3 million.
yeah. But I'm just saying they're about to have to pay him again, is what I was saying.
Yeah, and going into next year, I mean, they've got some space. Not sure
Yeah.
who they're gonna have to pay Asante Samuel Jr. So
They're about to have to pay
that'll eat into some of
Rashawn
that.
Slater.
I'm pretty sure
Rashawn Slater's due,
he's
next
making
year.
He's already at 19 mil on the cap.
but he's going to get paid next year, or they're going to cut him or let him walk.
He's under contract through 2025. So, I mean, yeah, maybe
Next
yeah,
year.
'cause it's that 5th-year option. So, I mean, they don't have to pay him next year. They could pay him in 2026. You know, I mean, they could play that.
But I'm saying there's a lot of money, bone and joints. No, but I'm just saying there's a lot of money that's about to have to be dished out to keep this current regime intact. And I mean, Harbaugh doesn't need a top 5 quarterback, historically speaking, to have success.
Yeah. No, I'm. So that's why I said year 2 of Harbaugh. That's why because I think next year they'll have some cap space to play with. They'll have developing rookies, and Harbaugh's vision will be coming into viewpoint, and they'll be able to say, okay, now we can get a full assessment of what we think of this kid this season. And you need to be winning games by next season. This season, you can get a bit of a pass. I mean, I think they have a roster that you can win 9-10 games with this year.
Yeah.
But I think next year is where you're really saying you need to start seeing a playoff win or two in there.
Yeah. So I mean,
feel good about it. And if not, I could see Harbaugh saying at that point, hell, let's go find another Kaepernick and let's run this thing back. We got Greg Roman at offensive coordinator. He ain't drawing up passing plays, you know?
Yeah. And so I mean, look, I'm looking at Herbert, and like I said, I mean, the talent's there for him, but he's not there for me for those reasons. So we'll move on. We can spend a whole podcast on Herbert.
Yeah. As if we didn't spend enough of our life already arguing about Justin Herbert.
Yeah, so this next up, I have franchise QBs. These are quarterbacks that are they can win the Super Bowl. They have the potential to win the Super Bowl. The right team, the right coaching staff. I mean, and with everything around them, they have the ability to win the Super Bowl, and they can win. Most of these guys are not going to win in spite of, but they are more than capable of delivering you and taking you to the promised land. And first up, I have Dak Prescott. I mean, say what you want about Dak Prescott and the playoffs and everything, but I mean, the dude wins in the division. I mean, consistently. I mean, his career record within the NFC East is like absurdly good. I mean, he's got to clean a couple things up in the playoffs, but defense has let us down more in the playoffs than Dak Prescott has. And I mean, you know me, I'm not the biggest Dak Prescott supporter. And I think
but the way you've worded that though, has Dak Prescott let you down in the playoffs?
It's hard to say because I mean, you look at last year, and we start the game with 3 straight 3-and-outs, but the defense gives up 3 touchdowns immediately too. And then as soon as he starts playing better, the defense starts playing better. And then all of our playoff losses, Dak hasn't played great, but the defense has played worse. So it's like
So he might not be the biggest problem, but he still might be a problem.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But I still think the ability is there. And I mean, I think a lot of it has to do with game plans in the past. I mean, last year it was
Right.
just
And so
last year
tiering,
last year was the biggest black eye I think on his resume. I think every playoff loss before the Packers last year was pretty universal in blame all over the field. But I mean, last year with the picks, but I mean, they were just so outcoached everywhere on the field. The offensive game plan was absolute fucking abysmal. Defense had nothing for the Packers offense. But I mean, the Packers were rolling. I mean, Packers literally beat the 49ers the very next week. And who knows what would have happened from there. But like, it's not like the Packers were bad. And I mean, I called it halfway through the season last year. I was like, this team's about to get hot, and we're gonna get the 2 seed over Philly, and they're gonna beat us in the playoffs. I said that like week 8, and that's exactly what happened. And LaFleur is just a fucking great coach, but like,
yeah,
I mean, I think Dak perfectly fits in this tier of he's a franchise quarterback, whether or not. And I don't have this
right. Well,
in
and
any
so
particular order here.
I think
So I
what
mean,
you said
Dak's my
there,
first one.
I think what you said there is perfect, though. Of like, and the game plan sucked, and that's the differentiator between the first 2 tiers and this tier, right? The first 2 tiers can transcend game plan. This tier probably can.
Yeah, and so I don't have these quarterbacks in any particular list. So I don't think Dak is one step behind my next QBs. He was just I just put him there. So I don't think Dak's the best one in this group. I just wrote him first, but yeah. So essentially, it's like he's a franchise quarterback. Whether or not Dallas re-signs him at the end of the season, I don't know, because when you have the roster Dallas has and the roster Dallas is building, do you want to have the highest paid quarterback in the league when he is maybe the 5th to 10th best quarterback at best in the league?
Yeah.
The league changes every year, so
I think that's a fair question, especially, I mean, you
but
look at the middle
he's every bit of a
tiers here,
franchise
they're
quarterback.
getting pretty
Somebody else will
crowded.
go pay him.
Yeah, and you look at the middle tiers here; they're getting pretty crowded, which makes you say maybe there's better options for
Exactly.
the players. Now, to start off my franchise QB tier, I've got Aaron Rodgers, and I almost had him in the confetti tier. It was really close because
I did too, but his last year in Green Bay kind of faltered down the stretch, and then the immediate Achilles injury, and I think he's also just gone a little Hollywood in the fact that I mean he just loves attention, and I think he was just such a stone cold killer for so long in his career.
Mm-hmm.
Like, didn't do any media, didn't do anything, and who knows what really has changed as far as mindset, because we didn't really hear much from him throughout his career.
I mean, but my note here is, does he still have the magic? I think it's a real question, and obviously we haven't seen him play in it over a year, so it's none of us know. But when we last saw him in Green Bay, he had nothing to work with, and he didn't have the magic. So he's going to have more to work with the Jets this year than he had in Green Bay the last time that we really saw him.
Yep.
But I don't know if he's still in that confetti tier, and so I had to put him in the franchise QB tier.
I'm with you 100%. That's kind of my thoughts exactly.
All right, next up for you,
Justin Herbert. Everything we've already talked about. I think he's supremely talented. I mean, I think he's right on the cusp of being a confetti quarterback, and he's got all the tools. And until he starts winning games, to me, he's just a top of the line franchise quarterback that you go into every season saying that's our guy, and you go to battle for your guy, and you love your guy. But in the back of your mind, you're like, oh, I mean, are we going to win a Super Bowl with this guy? Like,
yeah,
that's how I feel about Justin Herbert.
Herbie fully loaded.
Yep.
All right, my next guy, T-Law, Trevor Lawrence, and I can't. I couldn't even consider Trevor in the confetti QB tier yet.
No.
I think last year. I mean, so
Last year was
season,
bad for him.
but
Last year was his chance to.
Last year was really good for him until the ankle injury.
Yeah,
Like he was that offensive line.
he
in
was ready to grab the
Jacksonville
torch.
was really struggling last year, and so his traditional stats did not show this. The tape shows it. The advanced stats show it a little, but really you need to watch the games to see it. He was masterful in the way that he was manipulating the pocket last year when there was chaos all around him. He was really doing an outstanding job of keeping that offense on time, moving, even though he was dealing with a muddy pocket pretty consistently. Once he had that ankle injury, he couldn't navigate the pocket as well, and it all went downhill. Like
Yeah,
his stats weren't blowing anyone out of the water prior to it, but he was keeping that offense afloat and keeping them winning games in a way that, made you think maybe he is a confetti quarterback, but I need to see it for 17 games.
The thing about
that's
Trevor
where
Lawrence,
it's at now.
I think Trevor Lawrence is at the perfect spot in his career right now because I think he came in so hyped, and then he had to go through the Urban Meyer shit, and then he has the 30-point comeback against the Chargers and Justin Herbert, and then last year was last year, but now you have a Caleb Williams coming into the league. You have a CJ Stroud in year 2 in the same division. You have an Anthony Richardson that a lot of people are excited about in the same division. People are just kind of starting to forget about Trevor Lawrence, and I think that's perfect for him.
Mm-hmm.
I think out of all the people on this, in my opinion, this franchise quarterback list, I think he is the one most primed to maybe make that next step. And he's got some consistency now with Doug Peterson and that coaching staff there in Jacksonville.
My note next to his name is that I think he will jump a tier next year.
Yeah.
The only question that I have is the continuity and weapons because they've kind of changed a lot within that offense.
They have changed, but I think they were smart by not giving Calvin Ridley big money. Obviously, that experiment didn't go as planned. And don't overpay for a guy that it didn't work out for just because he had some bright moments. I mean, I like the way they're building their team there. And then ETN was great for him last year. So, yeah, I mean, I like a lot of what Jacksonville's doing, and I think they're going to be a very, very sneaky contender. It's hard to say don't sleep on the Jags, considering they were like one of the hottest teams coming into last year. But you look at the division, and like a lot of people are already being like, well, it's the Colts division or it's the Texans division to lose, and if it's not them, it's the Colts.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to your next guy here.
Josh Allen. Dak Prescott Jr. I love Josh Allen. I mean, don't get me wrong. We have this debate all the time. I think Josh Allen's great. I don't think Josh Allen's ever – I think Josh Allen can take over a game. Don't get me wrong. I think he has the ability to take over a game and win. But it's the consistency and the gunslinger mindset to the point where it's detrimental when he doesn't need to be. And so I think he's just a little bit away from being a guy that no matter what you trust in a big situation, to where it's a big situation. It's like, oh, this is either going to go fucking great or like he's going to blow this in like the first 3 plays.
I mean, that's what happened in the playoffs last year, right? They had they had, I want to say it was 3rd down around the 20, and they could have gone for the first, and instead he goes for the end zone with 2 minutes left, and he had a guy open at the yard marker. I could have just gotten the first and gotten 4 new plays.
Go on to live another
3
day.
new plays. Instead, they kick the field goal. Pat Mahomes drives right downfield, takes the lead again. Game over. He has 10 seconds left.
Yeah. So I mean, I think he's just right there. And I mean, I love Josh Allen. Don't get me wrong, but like I said, I mean, until he can consistently win games and not be a detriment in losses, because I feel like a lot of their losses are solely on him, but a lot of the wins are solely on him. and that's why he's not in that next tier above.
The thing I can't get out of my head is that is 2 games against the Chiefs, where against almost any other quarterback, Bills are in the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
And I'm sitting here going, man, it's Brett Favre. Brett Favre is going to lose you games as much as he wins them, but when he's hot, he's hot. And
exactly.
if you get him hot in the right time of the year, he's pretty damn near unstoppable. And that's the way I see Josh Allen. And this is part of why I wanted to say our kind of mottos of what we want in a quarterback when we came into this, because risk taking, that's my lowest weighted ranking here.
Yeah.
Like, I want a quarterback who takes risks. Obviously, I want them to limit the negatives, but I'm not going to turn my nose for as many guys for being a risk taker as I am taking on the creative problem solvers who do dumb stuff sometimes. And that's why I'm higher on Josh Allen.
Yep.
All right, next up for me here, got CJ Stroud. And again, similar to Trevor, I think this is a guy who could be jumping the tier in the next year. I couldn't quite put him in confetti yet. I need to see it again.
Yeah.
You do it once, it's beautiful, it's awesome, it's great. I gotta see it twice before I fully buy into it. And
he's got everything you need, though.
I do. Like I said, I think he's going to be jumping a tier in the next year, and I'm gonna have to figure out what's going on. I imagine Matt Stafford comes down, but if I have 2 guys jumping up, I can't have a confetti QB of 8 guys, so I'm gonna have to figure that out. But Stroud really, I mean, he elevated the Texans team last year.
He has so fun.
One of the best room of weapons in the NFL right now. But this time a year ago, Nico Collins was a solid number 2, and Tank Dell was a 165-pound kid out of a non-Power 5 conference school.
I thought he was from Baylor. No, where is he from?
Houston.
Yeah, I knew it was Texas.
And I still have questions about Tank Dell, undersized player who got injured.
Got shot.
That was my main question on him. Of he's really small. Is he gonna hold up? But it didn't matter. CJ Stroud just kept producing even after he left.
Yeah,
it was really
the Joe Mixon edition, I think, is going to help him a lot too. That offense.
Yeah. So next up for you here, we got
Jared Goff, baby,
your one and only
Jared Goff, and the most disrespected man in the NFL. And I mean, I guess he's getting his respect now, but I've been on this Jared Goff wagon for years now. And say what you want about the man, but I mean, he's won everywhere he's been. Been to 3 NFC Championship games now. Been to a Super Bowl. Is a proven leader of men, and throws one of the prettiest balls in the sport. And with the right team around him, he can absolutely bring it home. He stood toe to toe with Patrick Mahomes 6 years ago in one of the greatest games in NFL history. And yeah, I mean, it's just hard. He's not getting the hate he used to get, so I don't really feel like I have to be standing on the table just pounding into people's heads that Jared Goff isn't bad, like I used to.
Not bad.
When they made the trade, I mean, I was like, I think I said it at the time. I thought Detroit has their quarterback. Jared Goff is not just filling in; he is their quarterback. And a lot of people disagreed with me. Just signed a huge deal. Amon-Ra St. Brown, 6th round pick or 3rd round pick. But like I said, someone who elevates the people around him, Sam Laporta just had one of the best rookie tight end seasons of all time. I don't think that's a mistake. I mean, I think Ben Johnson has a lot to do with it. But I mean, there's something to be said for somebody who can elevate the people around him. When you have a 3rd round pick at wide receiver, become a top 5 wide receiver in the league, arguably. When you have a rookie tight end do what Sam Laporta did, you never see rookie tight ends have that kind of success in the NFL. I mean, I think a lot of that just goes to the intangibles of being a leader of men and being a guy that can lead a franchise. And I think that Jared Goff has that.
We are about to really learn what Jared Goff is for the second time.
Yeah.
Because the last time he got a big contract that ate into the salary cap and took away talent from the rest of the team, he struggled.
But the last time was a completely different offense where you had a genius offensive coordinator trying to maybe do more than his quarterback is capable of. Where in this Ben Johnson offense, with the pieces they have around him and the offensive line, Jared Goff isn't asked to carry this team and outscore people.
Right.
So I don't want to throw game manager out there like it's a bad term. But I mean, he can go out there, he can make every throw, but at the same time, like, they want to play good defense, they want to run the ball. I mean, they've built that offensive line. They drafted a running back high, and so I mean, Jared Goff can easily get it done, go out there and sling it for 350 and 4 touchdowns. But the very next week, I mean, he could go 17 for 23 for 286, a touchdown, but then they rush for 280 yards, like, between their two guys.
Yeah, I mean, I'll get more into Goff when we hit his spot on my rankings and kind of where my thought process is with him. But I mean, I respect putting him in franchise QBs. I think that's fine. I have him a little lower, but
I think when I say franchise QBs, I'm saying somebody who gives you a chance to win every single week in the right system and with the right guys around him. Because I mean, I think that's the differentiator between this tier and my next tier, is that the people in the next tier, even in the right system, you're like, yeah, man, we'll see.
Oh, see, to me, the next tier is system QBs.
Okay,
This tier, franchise QBs is more QBs who I think can make the jump up at some point. Where for me, give hope for their fans that's more system guys.
Okay, well, so I think so. Then Jared Goff would be kind of fringe, because I think he is absolutely a franchise. He's absolutely a franchise QB that can be a confetti QB in the right system.
Okay. So a little
That's kinda
different,
what I was-
little difference in how we're looking at it here. Then,
Yeah,
But next
But
up
I-
for me,
I think he could go to any team and be fine.
I got your boy Dak Prescott in here, and we've already talked a good amount about him. But I mean, I think this is firmly where Dak belongs. I mean, when I watch Dak, and maybe I'll get hate for this, I don't know, but the term that always comes into my head is Kirk Cousins plus.
Yeah.
Kirk Cousins, but better. And it's just
Yeah.
like because he
Well, and
has
Kirk
more
Cousins is
creativity, more ability to find different arm angles, to
Kirk
be
Cousins
a little
is a
shifty
career
in the
top
pocket. Yeah. I
Kirk
don't think
Cousins
it's
is
an
a career
insult,
top
I just-
13 guy.
Yeah.
I mean, I agree with you 100%.
All right. So next guy for you.
Caleb
Ooh, my
Williams,
boy.
baby. Caleb
All right.
Williams. And I mean, this,
Capitalize that W.
yeah, I mean, Caleb Williams is already knocking on the Mahomes tier door. I couldn't put him in the confetti QBs yet. I see it happening. I can see confetti falling on Caleb Williams. I can see this man in historic Super Bowl battles with Patrick Mahomes. I mean, I'd be willing to bet right now that Caleb Williams versus Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl will be the most times two quarterbacks have met in the Super Bowl in the history of the NFL, which I can't imagine is more than like 4 with I can't even think of two QBs that would have met 4 times, but I'm guaranteeing
Jim
right
Kelly
now
and Troy Aikman. Was that 2?
those
3?
2. No, they only won. Oh, it might have been 3. No, they won one of them against the Steelers, I thought, but it don't matter. I'm guaranteeing 4+ Super Bowls between Caleb Williams and Patrick Mahomes. It's about to get real boring for people that aren't fans of either these players or these teams. But yeah, I mean, this dude is. I don't know if it's the Chicago market. I don't know what it is. The amount of hate this kid's getting for being such a generational talent and being so freaking good, like, and maybe it's just the new era. I mean, he's the first real Gen Z.
I don't know how much you pay attention. Since he got drafted, the hate is gone.
No, it's still there from people. I mean, I still see it a lot. about, I mean, this dude's a bust. I mean, look what he's doing here. Look what he's doing there. Like, more so than we saw about, like, a Bryce Young. Like, I feel like Bryce Young was just like, okay, it's Bryce Young. Like, we didn't hear anything about him. Trevor Lawrence, I mean, he got a little bit of hate, but I mean, it wasn't.
Would you say that Bryce Young fell under the radar for some reason?
Maybe. Yeah.
Just a little short of the bar.
Just a little short of the bar. And yeah, yeah. And to me, Caleb Williams is every, like, I haven't been this excited for a rookie quarterback since maybe Andrew Luck. And then you pair that with the roster that they've assembled around him in Chicago. And I know I'm talking to a Bears fan, but like this is just me talking as an unbiased college football fan and NFL fan. Like, I'm so fucking excited.
Me and you both. Full disclosure, I've got Caleb in the to be determined just because I ain't put. I'm knocking on wood at every. I'm being careful, but I love to hear it. So next up, I got Kyler Murray. Now, this is one that is a little different. Like,
I had a hard time.
He's going to be on this. Like, I look at him and I'm just like, I don't know.
3 years ago, I would have had Kyler Murray and confetti.
He's extremely talented. You know, he's really freaking good at throwing the football, at running the football, at everything football. But like,
is he?
I just
like, he's really good at everything. He's really good at everything, but it's like, what are we doing?
Ultimately, I think he still belongs this high because I look at like
talent alone.
I mean, talent alone plus what he's had around him the last few years has really gone down the drain. And like last year, especially coming off the ACL injury, he didn't look completely right out there. I think he's going to get back to right. But
I actually think
having Marvin Harrison Jr. out there is probably going to be really helpful. You know?
Yeah, and I think Jonathan Gannon's a great guy to bring into that team and everything. So
and I think that coaching staff is going to find a way.
3 years ago, I had Kyler Murray in my confetti QBs, so I get it.
All right, next up for you,
Jordan Love. Hate to do it. I don't like this, but I mean, did prove he had nuts last year. We'll see what he does. I mean, it's going to be an incredibly tough division this year. If the Bears are half as good as I think they'll be, and the Lions can continue on, it's going to be a tougher division for them. Playing a second place schedule, so I don't think they can do what they did last year of starting slow and then coming in hot at the end of the season. I think LaFleur is one of the better coaches in the league, and I think they've done a lot to support him and that offense and that defense. So we'll see. I still don't. There's a lot of things I don't like about him, just from a football standpoint. I hate the fucking guy. But there's a lot of things that he does that I don't like, just strictly as a football player. But he has shown moments of greatness.
His arm talent's ludicrous. There's no question. And I can sit here and list off, like, you know, his adjusted completion percentage sucks. His accuracy's all over the place. And there's stuff on tape where I'm like, no, don't throw that. Like, what do you do? But it works. It works. So I'm sitting here like pulling my hair out of like, I don't think he's that good, but he might be that good. And what really hammers that home for me is like, I'm sitting here going, Matt LaFleur is so.
You pair that with Matt LaFleur is the thing.
Yeah.
I think if he had a middle of the road to better than average coach, I think it'd be completely different. But I think the Matt LaFleur effect is all the difference in the world to elevate his game to this level.
What makes me even more question that some is like, Matt LaFleur is an incredible coach. Don't get me wrong. But how many coaches in this league could elevate a quarterback and every wide receiver on the roster? Because they were working with jack shit last year at wide receiver. Like, and that's where I just end up going like, man, he's probably better than I'm giving him credit for.
Yeah, but at the same time, like they did hit their stride later in the season, and a lot of time that is coaching.
Yeah, and so if I want to go back to excuses, they did catch a lot of teams in a really nice spot where they were missing their
Yeah.
cornerback one or something
To where
or
they
other.
when
And I'm
they
sitting
really
there
hit their
watching the game against the Chiefs where it's like 4th and 5, and he's chucking the ball 23 yards downfield into double coverage, and it ends up being a catch somehow, even
yeah
though he had his check down past the sticks wide open. Like,
yeah
it's like it's stuff like that where I'm just like, man, I don't know if it's there, but then it's like the results are there. And
yeah
he that wide receiver room was empty last year, which
yeah.
Dontavian Wicks, full credit, Bo Melton, full credit. You guys did your thing, but like you were unknowns coming into last year.
This is to me. This is the exact opposite of Justin Herbert, to where on paper Justin Herbert should have a good roster around him, and they didn't perform. And here you have a roster that doesn't look great on paper, that performs great. So it's like, is the difference just coaching? Is the difference just bad luck? Or is
Something
the
in the
difference
cheese.
something in the cheese? Yeah.
All right, that's enough talking about the cheese heads. I just can't. All right, and that's all I got for that.
And I think you got more. I think oh no, that's all you got?
No, that's all I got.
Okay. I got quite a few more here.
Let's see. There we go. See who you got next.
All right, next up on this list, I have Jalen Hurts, which I could have dropped this guy down a little bit, but I just can't take away from what he's already done. The impact that he brings to the game with his running ability, the strength he has on the field. I don't think he's an elite passer by any means, but with the team assembled around him and what he's done so far, I just don't think you can say he's not a franchise QB, even though I do think he's more in the tier of give their fans hope as a system QB. Like, I don't know if Jalen Hurts can walk into a situation and, for example, like Jacksonville, and have even remotely the same success as a Trevor Lawrence or anything like that. But from what we've seen, I think it's hard not to put him here.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's fair, and like we said, a little bit of difference in our interpretation of the tiers, but
Yeah.
I mean, I think that everything you said is pretty fair there.
All right, next up, Aaron Rodgers. I mean, as far as franchise QBs go, I think 16 different teams in the NFL would give up their starting quarterback right now for a year of Aaron Rodgers, of the potential of what could be. And I think that perfectly encapsulates. I don't know. Captures. There we go. This tier right here. So,
and then last guy in your franchise QB tier,
Matt Stafford.
That's
Same reason as Aaron Rodgers. I thought about putting both these guys in my confetti list because confetti has fallen on both of them. And like I said, these aren't not in any particular order. So I mean, they're definitely not at the bottom of my list for this. But yeah, Matt Stafford is another guy that over half the league would get rid of their quarterback that they might like for the future for 1 year of Matt Stafford, given the opportunity.
All right, on to the give their fans hope, and I'm going to jump in on this one.
Can I start out my reasoning for naming this what it is?
Yeah, go ahead.
And I love your first one there. Yeah. This is, to me, this is the quarterbacks in the league that are good enough to where the fans think they really have a shot, but deep down they know it's probably not going to happen.
Yeah. And I think for me, the difference between franchise QB and give their fans hope is to me, in my franchise QB list, you pay these guys.
Yeah.
Give their fans hope. I'm always a little queasy about the contract that they're going to cost.
But I guarantee there's going to be some big contracts on here.
Yeah. So first off, Jalen Hurts, everything you said, except for I just put him down here. I mean, I think Jalen Hurts is really talented. I think he's got some really good arm talent.
I had him here, and I felt like I was being disingenuous because he's an Eagle, but maybe my assumption was right. Maybe this is where he belongs.
Yeah, I mean, I see, and this year will be telling. Like in Kellen Moore's offense, I'm not sure how he's gonna work. Like in a drop back passing offense when all his success has really been catered around an offense for him on a team that had still has, but extreme talent at wide receiver and O line. Like to me, this is that when you're talking about a quarterback who is excelling in a system that is that niche,
You know what's crazy?
with that much talent around him, you're going to question whether paying him is the right thing to do. What's crazy?
You know how many Philly fans I've seen that are like just fucking thrilled about Kellen Moore as OC there?
They just don't know.
And I'm like, you played the Cowboys twice a year, and I mean, I guess Cowboys always beat them, so I guess they just like, oh, Kellen Moore used to always beat us. But
at the end of the day, Kellen Moore's a guy who's going to keep getting jobs because based on, I mean, and you can tell me if I'm right or wrong here, but my understanding of it is Kellen Moore is an incredible play designer. He understands offense extremely well, but he has no feel for the play calling and he has no run game.
So he doesn't understand flow at all.
Yeah.
And when he's in his bag, it'll be the best offense in the league. But I mean, when there'll be games where the entire game you're pulling your hair out saying, what the fuck are we doing?
Like, yeah, and I mean that's what I heard from Chargers podcasts I was listening to. That's what I heard from NFL podcasts I listened to. That's what I've heard from you for a few years when he was with the Cowboys. And like even last year, I still didn't actually sit down and watch a lot of it, and was still like he's talked about really highly and really good with developing quarterbacks. So I mean, I feel like he's gonna keep getting opportunities. Is worth considering, but with a guy like Jalen Hurts, I just don't know where that fits because Jalen Hurts, the offense is so specific to him that when the Eagles found their most success, when they made that Super Bowl run against the Chiefs, I swear they ran like max of 10 different plays, but they had that play out of every personnel grouping, every formation you could think of.
And they were also winning close games.
Yeah.
Kellen Moore falls apart in close games. If he gets a 20-point lead in the first quarter, you'll win by 40. If it's a 3-point game going into the fourth quarter, expect like wide receiver screen, outside zone run, and then like a 9 route down the sideline to your number 3 wide receiver.
Right. And
like,
so and my point with that offense is like when they had the most success, you're talking about 10 plays with an offense coordinator who really understands flow of the game and how to get defenses into looks that he wants to get them into and make them pay for it with those 10 plays that in a limited practice time world that the NFL is now, you can perfect 10 plays.
Yeah.
You might not be able to perfect 300 and Kellen Moore has a 300 play page book. I'm sure.
Yeah. The best way to explain Kellen Moore is like your friend in Madden that changes that every single time, like every single play, he's changing the formation and like running different routes. And like he uses every single play that Madden gives you available. Like
the tight ends never practice a 15-yard double move up and out. Well, screw it. Just make them do it. You know,
exactly.
Practice matters. Timing matters.
It's like we've never ran this play in practice, only on paper.
Yeah,
but we're gonna run it for our 3rd and 15 play. It's 3rd and 15. We're up by 2. It's 3rd and 15 with a minute 47 left. You get this and you win the game. And he's like, we're gonna run a play that we've never practiced.
I swear that was Matt Nagy in Chicago the last few years. It was just like I was watching games. It was just like they can't have practiced this play more than 5 times ever because they don't know what they're doing. Like it doesn't make sense. But anyway,
there was a time where Amari Cooper, one of the best route runners in the game, and rookie year for kid out of Colorado State named
Michael Gallup.
Michael Gallup. It was like a 3rd and 12 to ice the game to win. We ended up winning the game anyway because we stopped them on defense. 3rd and 12. I don't know if there were option routes or not, and one of them misread, but they were within like 2 yards of each other, and neither one of them were past the sticks. And I'm like, what are we doing here? And then after the game, Kellen Moore was like, oh, yeah, well, he said that all 3 players saw the defense differently. So what he wanted so he thought Gallup was going to go out and then back in to split the cover 2, and he thought Amari Cooper was going to stay outside. Amari Cooper ended up coming in, Gallup cut out, and then they weren't even in cover 2. They ended up being in cover 1. And it was like, what? Like,
Just
so it's like he called the play for cover 2, and I think both receivers did the right thing based on reads, but Kellen Moore didn't even realize that if he calls this against the wrong defense, both of these guys are going to be right next to each other. Like, he just called it with such confidence that he knew what the defense was going to be in.
Yeah, or the defense, the DC just pantsed him.
Yeah, it was like ludicrous.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just one of those things where afterwards he was like, well, you had cover 2, they're supposed to do this, but it wasn't cover 2. And then you're like, oh, so they both people made the right read, and in their right read they ended up holding hands.
That's just, that hurts my head.
Yeah. But that's Kellen Moore's offense.
Yeah. Well, let's get into your first guy here, and this gives fans hope. Tua Tagovailoa.
So yeah, Tua's, highly talented. But when you look at as far as rosters go, you can't think of a better marriage for a quarterback with what you want Tua to be. And he's the perfect embodiment of this, because it's like everything's there for him. You need to have more success. That's all there is to it.
Yeah, it's pretty clear. I'm gonna hold my comments there till we get to him on my list. But moving on, same tree of a different branch. Brock Purdy.
Yeah,
we're talking about
perfect system.
A guy who's done some really nice stuff so far in the league, but Kyle Shanahan has proven that it doesn't really matter that much who his QB is. He's gonna do good stuff, and you're talking about Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, and Christian McCaffrey,
George
Kittle, Trent Williams. You have all pros all over this offense.
Juwan Jennings is a 3.
Yeah, Juwan, he's a fine. I think he's a 3 on a lot of rosters, so I don't throw him in there.
But I feel like he's a fringe 2 guy. Maybe not.
I don't know. He showed up in the Super Bowl, so that makes me question my take on it. But I think he showed up. I think he's a top tier 3. I'm not going to sit there and say he's like a 2 on a lot of rosters, but I think he's definitely a top tier 3. And when you're looking, when you compare that to already having a top tier 1 and 2, on top of having a top 3 tight end, on top of having the best left tackle in the league, on top of having the best running back in the league, having a running back who can be a receiver, and a tight end who can be a receiver, and a fullback who can be a receiver, and how multiple you can get in that entire offense. Oh, and our number 1 wide receiver, he can be running back too. So we can do whatever the hell we want out here and get you tied into pretzels, because that's just what we want to do.
All you got to do is
has a lot at his advantage, and maybe he can jump up and be a guy worth paying. But to me, I need to see him putting up MVP numbers for 2 or 3 years before I'm even considering it, just because that roster is so talented, that offense is so well schemed.
Yeah. Hey, I'll be right back. Can you just keep going down your list, and I'll be right back?
Yeah. So next guy for me here, Kirk Cousins. So I debated a lot over this one because Kirk Cousins, he is really close on that line between franchise QB and give their fans hope. But ultimately, where I landed with it was I think there are clear ways to beat Kirk Cousins. And the guys in the franchise QBs, they might have clear ways to beat them right now, but there's no reason for them to be permanent, right? There's reason to believe that they can overcome those flaws in their game. Whereas with Kirk Cousins, I'm not sure he can ever overcome his lack of playmaking ability because he is stuck in the pocket, because he has limited arm angles to work with, limited release points, limited arm strength, arm talent. Like there are limitations on his game that I think can keep him from jumping up into these higher tiers, because teams can say, hey, if we got an ass kicking 3-tech, we're gonna win this game, right? Like that's how you kind of feel against Kirk Cousins. If you have a guy who can just win on the interior and get into him, he doesn't have answers aside from his check down and his hot route. And the hot route only makes sense if it's even a blitz. So you're just talking a check down king at that point. I'm not saying Kirk Cousins is a check down king, but I'm saying you can force him to be that if you have the talent to do it. Whereas I look at the guys higher on this list, of Kyler Murray, I'm not sure you can force him to be anything in particular. Like, he might be erratic, but he can beat you on any given Sunday just because he is that good. Like, Trevor Lawrence is really similar. CJ Stroud, they have these traits that are impossible to beat sometimes. And Kirk Cousins doesn't have that. I think he's gotten a lot better with his creativity, with his his problem solving is already at a really high level. I think it's near as good as it can get. But I always come back to not this past season, but the season before. In the playoffs, big gotta have it play, right? Gotta have it. And Kirk Cousins doesn't have the guy open where he needs him to be on 4th down. And he goes to the check down. Check down doesn't come close. Because it's not even like a decision-making question. It's just a survival question. He does not have the traits to survive in that pocket longer than he should to beat you on a play he shouldn't beat you on. He needs stuff to go right to win. And for me, that is what differentiates him from being a franchise quarterback to it gives their fans hope.
Yeah, I mean, I 100% agree. I mean, Kirk Cousins, this give their fans hope. Kirk Cousins is the poster child for this because he's going to put up all the numbers. You're going to look back at the end of the season and be like, "Oh, look what he did."
Balling last year. He was like I hate putting him here because I love watching him play. He's so smart. He's so good, and everything's so clean.
Yeah,
but he can be beat.
Exactly, and he is the guy that you're like close game, playoff game. I mean, do you really want Kirk Cousins leading the charge? I mean, he's not going to throw the pick, but I mean, he's probably also not going to go win you the game.
Right, and I don't even think there's I have a big question about like because a lot of people turn it into like the it factor, right? And I don't think it's a mental it factor with him as much as D coordinators just know where they can beat him because he has those physical limitations.
Absolutely. And he's getting older every year.
Yeah. All right. Next guy for you here. We got Anthony Richardson.
So this is a guy that I think is poised to make the jump this year. And I guess he could fall into the next tier as well. But I put him in this tier because I think Colts fans are going into this year super excited. And when you look back at Anthony Richardson earlier in the season, he won some games. He did some awesome things. But when you really break down kind of the stats of those first 3 games, I mean, he wasn't throwing the ball great, but I mean, he was playing at a level that you're like, this dude is the dude. Like, I don't think any fan base is more hopeful for a guy that that we don't really know anything about, that wasn't great in college, but had all the traits that you would want, than Colts fans going into year 2 of Anthony Richardson. And so that's why I put him in this tier rather than my next tier, which is to be determined, which I think he probably falls more into. But as far as hope goes, I mean, you're hoping that this guy is a franchise quarterback. You're hoping that this guy is a confetti quarterback, and the intangibles or the measurables, excuse me, not intangibles, the measurables are certainly there for him. Physically, he checks all the boxes. I mean, the kid's just a stud. But yeah, I mean, it's gonna be boom or bust for this Indy team. I mean, I could see them winning 10 games, and I could see them having a top 5 pick. So,
You know how many times Anthony Richardson has dropped back since high school?
from center,
Yep. Or from any, like, just taking a snap, that's a pass. Pass play. And then maybe
since high school, you have the
Yeah.
actual number.
Since high school, yeah.
So it's extremely low if you have the actual number. 367 times.
553. But it still gets the point across. You know how many
Yeah.
quarterbacks dropped back at least 553 times just last year?
I would say the majority of starters that started all games.
17. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think probably 17 quarterbacks started all games last year. So,
And Anthony Richardson, you're right. The tools are all, like, they're wild. But at the same time, it's like, do we even know what they have in this guy? Like,
So
it's just really hard to gauge.
but I mean, I don't think any team is more excited for the unknown than what Colts fans are for that guy, especially what we saw early last season before he got hurt. So that's why I have him here instead of the next tier.
All right. Ooh.
All right.
Twofer.
Yeah. So this is specific to the Steelers rather than the quarterbacks there. But I think Steelers fans can get excited for either one of these guys. You look at the upside, Russell Wilson went to two Super Bowls, actually played fairly decent down the stretch last year. You have Russell Wilson for $7.
Good enough to get benched.
Yeah, you're paying Russell Wilson $1.50 to play quarterback for you, while Denver's paying him like $765 million. And then you have one of the most exciting players in the NFL the last 2 years, and Justin Fields, where he can run. I still believe in Justin Fields as a passer. I think Justin Fields on this Bears roster right now would be an MVP candidate. Like what Chicago did to Fields?
DJ Moore or Keenan Allen?
Ramadunze. I don't know, but
no, only one. Only one of them are going to get all the targets. That's the point.
Yeah, but I mean, what Chicago did to Justin Fields was criminal, and I'm not sitting here. I don't think he's in that next tier, but I definitely think he has the potential to be. And they never gave him an opportunity to grow. I mean, he never had a chance coming in. I really hope to see his career flourish, but I actually have both of these guys on my list twice because for reasons we'll get to later in the pod. But yeah, I think Steelers fans are excited for this combo. I think they're excited to run Russ out there, and if it doesn't work, I mean, what quarterback is more exciting to come off the bench in the league right now than a Justin Fields like week 5 against the Cowboys when you're down 24-3 at halftime and you're like, fuck it, throw Justin Fields in there.
Yeah, I mean, hey, I think for where you had these tiers, these make sense. I can talk a little bit more about Fields later. I do agree. I think the Bears utterly failed him, but I also do think there were things he probably needed to pick up by this point in his career if he was ever going to pick them up. And that really makes me wonder about where he's going to be as a passer anytime in the future.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's like in a different system, in a different world, who knows what would have happened? I mean, it goes both ways.
Oh
It-
yeah, I like I said,
You're
I think
talking
the
about the
Bears
unknown.
failed him. So like, I think he could have been better. I just wonder if that's still there at this point.
Yeah. No, I agree 100%.
All right, next guy for me, we got to repeat Tua Tagovailoa. Just great roster. I think at this point, I'm sitting there saying for Tua, I'd pay him because I know he can execute this offense extremely well. I know
Yep.
Mike McDaniel is all about just finding speed, dirty, nasty speed, and getting it on
And
the
he can
field.
throw the deep ball.
Yeah, I mean, he can throw the deep ball well enough, and I know he can execute this RPO scheme, getting it out quickly. And
Mhm.
until someone really finds a way to beat it, I think you're safe. And so I think you would pay him, but I think he belongs in this group because I do think he is tied to that system and that roster throughout that coaching staff and what they are going to seek out for their roster.
I agree 100%.
Yeah. Next guy for you,
Brock Purdy, for everything you said. I mean, we don't have to go too much deeper into him. We already talked about Brock Purdy, but I mean, there's as good as Brock Purdy was last year. I think there's 20 quarterbacks in the league that Shanahan would take over Purdy, given the opportunity.
Yeah, agreed. Next guy for me, I got Jordan Love in here, and for now, I mean, I guess I think I'm moving Love up right now. I think I'm moving him into the franchise QB tier. Actually, no, I'm keeping him here. I need to see it twice.
Yeah,
I need to see it twice. I'm gonna knock him a tier until I see it twice because, as I mentioned
I think
earlier,
the playoff performances for him. I mean, and all both of their games. I mean, I think he played well enough to garner the franchise QB role. But I understand you got to see it more than once. And
yeah.
But I mean, I think he's right on the fringe of this
and
of these tiers.
I gotta be honest, just knowing that Matt LaFleur has bad blood with Dan Quinn and how badly he pantsed him in that game, like I will always have questions about how much of that was Love until I get more proof, at least. But in that game, Love made some fucking throws, man. Like, I mean, he might not have had to read a lot, but man, he made some throws that just made my jaw drop. Like, holy shit, that was a ball type stuff.
Yeah.
Next up, Geno Smith.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is another one I think this kind of falls into the Kirk Cousins conversation we were talking about, where a little different career path. I mean, you would like 6 years ago, whenever he got punched and broke his jaw and playing for the Jets, you'd be like, oh, we'll never see this dude in the NFL again. Like, and then he goes to the Seahawks, sits for a year, takes over for Russ after injury, plays pretty well. They get rid of Russ, and you're like, well, is it going to be him or is it going to be the kid out of Missouri, the backpack kid, Drew Lock? Yeah. And he comes out, he runs the system well. He gets rid of the ball. He doesn't turn it over, puts up good numbers. I mean, I think Seattle fans are kind of in the boat of like, we've seen this before. Like, the definition of like a system QB, like if everything is perfect around this, like we can make this run. And I kind of think that's what Geno is. Like, Geno's never going to go out there and just fucking win the game, like put the team on his back and go get this shit done. But at the same time, like, if you're a Seahawks fan, you go into every single game being like, we play our game, we play the way we want to play, and we can win this.
Yeah, I have a different take on Geno, so I'm going to hold my tongue until I get to him. But I see it a little differently with him.
Okay.
Now, I got Jared Goff here. I mean, to me, I see Goff very similar, like to Kirk Cousins. He can be really, really good, but there are specific ways to beat him, and he will just always have a hard time overcoming those things.
So if Dak Prescott is like Kirk Cousins plus, Jared Goff is like Kirk Cousins marginally better.
Yeah, no, yeah, I think that's fair. Like, I
Like,
think they belong. Actually, I mean, I put Kirk a little above Goff, but like, it's the same.
I'll take
concept.
Goff over Kirk.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's marginal. Like you said,
Yeah.
it's marginally above, marginally below. They're very similar. To me, Kirk has more experience in multiple offensive systems. Where I'm like, I know that guy knows what he's seeing better. I think
The difference to me, and this could just be me being an ignorant fan, but I mean, I've seen it done in the playoffs.
Yeah, hey,
with
that's fair.
Goff.
That's fair. All right, next guy for you, Kirk Cousins.
Not a whole lot to say here. I mean, you kind of killed it there. So,
all right, so we'll go to my first guy in the Baker Mayfield tier.
Yeah, so
and that's Geno.
The best way to explain Baker Mayfield tier is he's a starting quarterback in the NFL that can get you to the playoffs, and the fan base isn't necessary. This is the way I thought of Baker Mayfield. The fan base is just happy to not be losers, to where they're like, oh, we made the playoffs. Oh, we beat the Eagles in the first round. Like, what the fuck? Like, what if we just go out and win the whole fucking thing here? Like, never really have a whole lot of hope, but you could be sitting there at the end of the season with a winning record and go win maybe a couple of playoff games, and like, it gets real exciting real fast. Like, you're not starting the season being like, we're gonna go win the Super Bowl, but week 8, 9, 10, 11 rolls around, and you're kind of right there in the thick of things, and you're like, okay, like, let's go. Like that's how I describe this Baker Mayfield tier.
And I see it as like, it's Jeff Garcia. Any given year, he might throw up 30 touchdowns and 10 interceptions, or go for 20 touchdowns, 20 interceptions. You don't really know what you're going to get on a year-to-year basis, but they're wild, and they're just going to do their dang thing.
Yeah.
And to me, and that's why I say I disagree a little with Geno, because I don't know how much you start to key in on some Geno tape. This is a wild man. This is a dude who he has some pretty wild arm talent, and he's got some escapability. Like, he's just chucking it up there a lot of the times and hoping.
I'm worried
for the
about.
best.
I'm worried about a non-Pete Carroll led Seahawks team with Geno Smith. I almost put him in this tier.
Yeah. No, I can. I don't with a less structure, I guess, or like, I mean, it's a whole new offense there this year, so it'll be interesting to see how that all plays out. But that, like last year, that Seahawks offense catered to Geno to just kind of say, hey, when you want to say screw it, just say screw it and get wild. And so I think Geno is like, he might be the definition of Baker Mayfield.
Yeah. So for my Baker Mayfield tier, I have Baker Mayfield. And I mean, maybe one of the most disrespected players in the league. I mean, being the both of us graduating from Texas Tech, I mean, we don't have the most love for Baker, but I still feel like he's kind of got a raw deal in the NFL. I mean, he's won playoff games for the Browns and Buccaneers. And if you look at the history of quarterbacks that have done that, it's a very short list. Tom Brady is on that list with not a whole lot of other people. And how many Browns quarterbacks have won playoff games? Like, not very many.
Doesn't look like you got that raw of a deal from the Bucs here.
No, I'm just saying in the.
Oh, I know. I'm just teasing.
Oh, okay. No, but
$100 million man.
Yeah, dude, good for Baker. I mean, I just feel like he's highly disrespected. I think he's a more than capable starting quarterback in the NFL. I think that people are realistic about him, but he is what he is. And like I said, you could look up week 10, 11, 12 in the season and be like, holy shit, we got a chance at this thing. And I mean, he's also the type, he's got that gunslinger in him too. I mean, he ain't scared to go win a game. He ain't scared to go lose it either. But I mean, it's fun.
It's fun.
Like,
yeah. All right. I got Baker Mayfield up next in this tier. So, I mean, I'm with you. It's pure unadulterated fun and chaos and everything in between, and you just don't know.
Yeah. Next up, I
Ooh.
mean, this is kind of this isn't necessarily in the same realm of Baker Mayfield, but I mean, I look at this Raiders team and I look at the momentum they had late in the season last year under Antonio Pierce, and I look at Jimmy G, and I see a quarterback that's been to a Super Bowl, that had some success in New England, like maybe win some games. He's at the
Jimmy
Rams.
G's a Los Angeles Ram.
Who's the Raiders quarterback?
Aiden O'Connell or Gardner Minshew, to be determined.
Did I just completely fuck that up?
I mean, it's easy to confuse. I would have thought the same thing if it wasn't like diving into their roster.
Okay,
like
so
last week.
whenever I wrote down all my tiers, I wrote down all of the teams separately. I went division by division, wrote down all the quarterbacks. I had Aiden O'Connell for the Raiders, but I didn't have service where I was when I was doing this. And I was like, Aiden O'Connell's not the quarterback. Like, I knew Aiden O'Connell was the quarterback. And I couldn't Google to fact check myself. And I was like, no, it's Jimmy G. So, yeah, you can throw this off the list. This was Jimmy G. I'll throw Aiden O'Connell in here instead. We'll just make this Aiden O'Connell. Thank you for correcting me there. And kind of for the same reason. I mean, I don't think he is necessarily in the to be determined tier because I think he is what he is. And I don't think anybody is sitting there waiting for Aiden O'Connell to break out. Like he is a placeholder, a place filler. And if he turns into a top 15 quarterback and the Raiders are like, oh, we can build on this and try to just build a stacked roster around him, I think that's potentially an option. And I also think it's an option to where they go out and go get somebody next year. So I think that kind of encapsulates the Baker Mayfield
the
tier perfectly.
I think that's fair. And like I think Aiden O'Connell has just enough screw it in his game to really fit this tier.
Yeah.
All right. I got Derek Carr in here. And this is more than anything because I don't think Derek Carr really fits this definition.
Hold on, pull mine down real quick. Oh, never mind. I'm on this Derek Carr next.
I don't think he really fits this definition, but I don't know where the hell else to put him. So
yeah, I was kind of the same way with Derek Carr. There. Next up, I have Kyler Murray, and I think he could have been higher here, but I think with Kyler Murray, we've gotten to the point to where, I mean, his job as the guy is definitely come into question. And I think he could shoot up these ranks very, very quickly just by doing what he can do. But, I mean, I think these last 2 years have hurt him a lot. So I have him in this category for now, to where this is almost like a journeyman category if you really want to break it down.
Yeah.
To where I could see Arizona moving on from him, but I could also see a team willing to go get him, just kind of like the Tampa Bay Bucks did with Baker Mayfield.
Yeah.
And what the Saints did with Derek Carr whenever the Raiders were ready to move on.
Yeah. And I got the king. Joe Flacco belongs here. He's not even a starter, but Joe Flacco to a T is just going to go out there and rip it. And that fits this perfectly.
From retired to starting in the playoffs. I love it.
All right, then you got
next up. I have Derek Carr. Yeah, everything you said. I mean, we don't got to say much more about Derek Carr.
Yeah, and then that was it for you in this tier.
Yeah.
I put Danny Dimes.
Oh, that's high.
Danny Dimes can get you to the playoffs in the right year. Danny Dimes can be awful in the wrong year. I mean, that's what this tier is.
even in the playoff year, he wasn't. I didn't think he was good. Everything kind of just broke their way. They got a lot of wins they shouldn't have got. But I mean, I guess technically you're right. They did make the playoffs 2 years ago. So,
I think this is where Danny Dimes lives. In
well,
that journeyman territory.
we'll get to that later.
All right. Do you want to just reveal the full next one?
Yeah.
And you
So
can
these
talk
are
a little on it, and then I'll do the same.
these are to be determined. So we don't really know what we got here. I have Drake May, rookie. Bryce Young, kind of a rookie because he had no help last year. Bringing in some reinforcements, going and get Deontay Johnson, kind of bolstering up that offensive line a little bit, helping Bryce Young everywhere they can. So we'll see if we can get a year 2 bump out of Bryce Young. Hopefully he's good. JJ McCarthy, obviously. Jaden Daniels, obviously. Then I got Mayo Boy, Will Levis, which, I mean, we saw a little bit from him last year, but, I mean, you look at this Tennessee roster, they've done a lot to support him for a guy that really hasn't shown a whole lot of promise, but, I mean, his best moments are really good, and he hasn't really shown bad moments yet. I mean, there's been times where he wasn't great, but I don't, unless I may be mistaken, but like I don't remember seeing just him be awful.
He didn't completely pay for it. I want to say the game against the Steelers, he tried to throw a pick six like 3 different times on the final drive, and the Steelers just refused to catch them. But
rookie.
Outside of that, I can't say I remember.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, there's not a lot to say about the guys I have here. So
I got a real similar group. Caleb Williams, Anthony Richardson, Drake May, Jaden Daniels, Aiden O'Connell, and Will Levis. I forgot to even put Bryce Young on this list, but Bryce Young is going on a lower tier after I ran through a bunch of his numbers today, and I am very down on him right now. So
yeah. All right, go next. We have a criminal. I have Deshaun Watson for obvious reasons. Don't really got to get into that. What do you have?
Deshaun Watson. For obvious
reasons.
I like how I didn't even think about this. I like how I left all 5 lines in this. Like it's gonna be.
No, that's what I was telling you earlier. When I saw the 5 lines, I was like, did he put more people here? So next up, we have nobody really knows what's going on here. And then first up, I have just the Broncos. So I mean, technically, I guess they drafted a guy in the top 15. But like, is anybody in the league being like, "Oh fuck, Bo Nix"? Like, and then next, I have the Steelers. Like, I thought the Russell Wilson trade made sense, but then to go get a guy that maybe has a lot of potential is very exciting, but is coming up on his 5th-year option on top of bringing in Russ is like, why? It doesn't really like. I felt like the team that traded for Justin Fields would want to see what they have right away, so they can like figure out what they're going to do with him. And to bring him into that situation with Russell Wilson when you have Russell Wilson for free, it just seems like you're punting on the season to like try to maybe have a quarterback of the future. But if you have 2 quarterbacks, you don't have one. So, well, what are we doing here? And then Daniel Jones, like. We just doing that? Really, we're just gonna ride Daniel Jones, I guess. Like, I understand you technically paid him, but like to not bring in anybody, like is just Daniel Jones. Like, what are we doing here?
Wait, I just want to put this out there. Daniel Jones has put up like 24-12 as a rookie. Like 15-5, that sucks actually, but I thought he was better than that.
10-7, 11-10.
Well, see, I knew those 2 sucked, but like it's also injuries. Like, but 15-5, I thought he was better than that in that year. Maybe he got a bunch of rushing touchdowns. Yeah, he had 7 rushing touchdowns.
Well, he is the fastest quarterback in the league.
Well, yeah, when he doesn't trip, but I don't know. I still think he's a guy who can put up something. Like that rookie year still gives me some hope for him to be like Baker Mayfield-ish.
To me, with the options that were available, like we just talked about Justin Fields, and even some quarterbacks in the draft. I mean, to just say, okay, Daniel Jones is our guy, and just not bring in anybody. It's like,
Oh yeah,
what are we doing here?
yeah, I agree with that. Okay, so for my group here, I got Russell Wilson and Justin Fields. That fits your Steelers one. Got Sam Darnold because he's technically the starter of Minnesota.
So we basically have the
now,
same
I
thing.
think.
We basically have the exact same thing. Or no, Sam Darnold's technically the starter in
Minnesota.
Yeah.
And then Bo Nix, which we'll just end this on a fun Bo Nix fact. Do you know who Bo Nix's first victim at the collegiate level was in his infamous Auburn comeback victory?
Oregon.
Justin Herbert.
Oh, yeah.
Gonna get that twice this year.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought you were saying that because he finished his career at Oregon. I thought, but yeah.
No, because the Bo Nix game was against Justin Herbert's Oregon Ducks.
Yeah, another reason, man.
It's gonna be a fun 2 games this year for those two, man. All right,
I'm sure everybody will agree with us here, and there will be no hate.
Takes and
Yeah. But I mean, all in all, I mean, I think we're pretty similar of where we rank guys. I mean, well, there's a little bit of separation between the elite of the elite versus the not so elite of the elite, just that next tier. But I mean, outside of that, I mean, we're basically rock solid with everybody.
That's the way QB tiers always are. It's like you're all saying the same things, but finding something to argue about within it.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of the time, at least. But I think that does it for us.
Okay, so who we're not sleeping on now? Can we say the Jags? Is that allowed?
So
is that kind of like Trevor Lawrence?
I don't think it is.
It's not allowed.
I don't think it is.
What
so
about
the teams I've mentioned to you are Patriots, who I think I'm out on, just because I don't think they're able to score enough points. Panthers, I think I'm out on because I just
Bryce Young.
I'm just man here. I can.
You're out on Bryce Young.
A little sneak preview of our division previews coming up. Let's see. I gotta get my screen back up here.
What can we say a team that we're absolutely sleeping on that maybe has a lot of hype? The Washington Commanders.
Oh yeah, I'm sleeping on them.
I think a lot of people think they're just gonna fucking make this next step. That's not gonna happen.
Like, man, I just look at Bryce Young's numbers here, and I just get really scared of what, like, trying to buy into this.
Yeah.
A guy who had two games all year with an above average EPA per play. I don't care about his supporting cast. Will Levis had more than that. Like, I just start to really get these numbers are really ugly.
Yeah. But I mean, I'm never gonna beat the drum for Bryce Young. So
even though I do like what the Panthers have done this offseason. Like, I don't love everything, but I think they've done a nice job making something out of nothing.
So if those two are out of it, we're not allowed to take the Jaguars. Steelers are too historically good to take. I do like I think one of the Steelers quarterbacks figures it out, whether it's Russell Wilson starting the year off hot or Justin Fields coming out and doing great.
I like the Cardinals.
Kyler and MHJ.
9-8 against the spread last year.
They did sign Zay Jones. I forgot about that. That's a sneaky little good third receiver for them. I like their offensive line.
Yeah.
James Conner, I think, is extremely overrated.
Well, but they got Trey Benson in the draft.
They did get Trey Benson in the draft. They got Demaryius. They got Demerson out of Texas Tech.
Yeah. They're building something there, man. I like their coaching.
Yeah.
These dudes
fought
every game last year, man. They
did.
The nail.
They were nasty last year, man. I might be ready to put my stamp on the Cardinals.
I'm close. Like I've dove into every team to some extent, and I'm real close to just saying.
I mean, you go through the NFC, and it's like can't do the Bears. It's not the Giants.
No one in the NFC East. I'm interested in.
You can't really do it. You can't do the Seahawks.
Yeah.
Which
I like the Seahawks a lot this year.
Who's the other NFC West team? Well, who am I blanking on? Seahawks, Rams, 49ers, Rams, Cardinals. Yeah, can't do any of those. Can't do anybody from the North. And I mean, Buccaneers won a playoff game last year. Can't do them.
Yeah, there's just a lot lot of parity in the league right now. It's hard to find a team that anyone.
I think Cardinals. I think Cardinals.
That's where I'm at too.
I think Cardinals is a good team.
Yeah.
So we're not sleeping on the Cardinals.
Boom. Nailed it.
Hey, we've been rock solid on these for 4 years now.
Yeah.
3 years now. So all right. Well, I think that'll do it for tonight. Are we getting into we go next week or we're gonna wait a week? What are we doing here?
AFC West next week?
AFC West. Oh, get some more Justin Herbert slander out there. I love it.
Well, I'll try to find a guest for next week. If anyone out there is a content creator for an AFC West team, I might be reaching out to you. But reach out to me if you would like to be on the show.
Definitely won't be a Charger because there's only one of them out there, and we found him.
We found two.
And then they're not coming on the pod. They could. They could. We might have to mute their mic after about 5 minutes, but they could.
They could. All right.
Well, I think that's going to be it for us. I think the Celtics won in overtime, so that's good. So we will see y'all next week. AFC West preview. Do not sleep on the Cardinals and have a good night.
See red, baby.
You play to win the game. Hello? You play to win the game. You don't play to just play it.